Hello, and welcome to the first episode of our brand new series, Self and Psychology, where we explore the fascinating and ever evolving field of psychology and its relationship with the concept of the self. And in this episode, we're going to delve into some of the most perplexing and intriguing questions in consciousness. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the topic, let's take a moment to think about what consciousness actually is. It's a term that's often thrown around in everyday conversation, but when we stop to really think about it, what does it mean? Well, in academic terms, consciousness is generally defined as the state or quality of being aware of and able to think and perceive one's surroundings. But what does that really tell us about the nature of consciousness? What does it mean to be aware? How do we know that we are truly perceiving our surroundings? These are just a few of the many questions that have puzzled philosophers, scientists, and psychologists for centuries. And while we've made some progress in understanding the nature of consciousness, there's still so much we don't know. So today, we're going to explore some of the most intriguing questions in consciousness, from the classic philosophical conundrum of the mind-body problem to a more basic exploration of how our psychology deeply affects how we experience and interact with the world around us. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready to dive into the complex and fascinating world of consciousness. Let's go. To start, let us ask ourselves a very simple question. How do we really experience the world around us? It's a topic that's been pondered and written about by many great minds throughout history. As Albert Einstein once said, the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. And he was right. The world is a mysterious and fascinating place, full of wonders, both big and small. When it comes to experiencing the world around us, it's important to understand that our senses are the gateway to our perception. They allow us to see, hear, touch, taste, and smell the world, and each of these senses provides us with a unique perspective. Think of it like a team of detectives working together to solve a case. Each detective brings their own unique set of skills and perspectives to the investigation, and by working together, they are able to uncover the truth. Our senses are like those detectives. Our eyes allow us to see the world in all its beauty and complexity, while our ears allow us to hear the sounds of the world, from the sweet melody of a songbird to the roar of a waterfall. Our sense of touch lets us feel the texture of the world around us, from the soft fur of a kitten to the rough bark of a tree. Our sense of taste allows us to savor the flavors of the world, from the sweet taste of a ripe strawberry to the salty tang of a bag of chips. And our sense of smell lets us experience the world in a way that's often overlooked, from the comforting aroma of a freshly cooked meal to the pungent scent of a skunk. But it's not just our senses that shape our experience of the world. Our thoughts and emotions play a big role too. As the famous philosopher Immanuel Kant once said, we see things not as they are, but as we are. In other words, our perception of the world is colored by our individual experiences and perspectives. For example, imagine you're looking at a painting. Your friend might see it as beautiful and inspiring, while you might see it as dull and uninteresting. The painting itself hasn't changed, but your perception of it has. This is because our thoughts and emotions can influence how we interpret and experience the world. So how do we make sense of this complex and multifaceted experience of the world around us? Well, it's like trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle. Each sense, thought, and emotion is a puzzle piece, and by putting them all together, we are able to create a cohesive and meaningful picture of the world. But just like with a jigsaw puzzle, it's important to take a step back every once in a while and appreciate the bigger picture. As the author and humorist Mark Twain once said, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. In other words, don't get so caught up in the details of experiencing the world around you that you forget to appreciate the beauty and wonder of it all. Take a moment to step back, soak it all in, and appreciate the mysterious and awe-inspiring world we live in. Now that we've looked at how we choose to experience the world around us, let us turn our attention to another great puzzle. One of the most enduring and fascinating topics in the study of self and psychology is the age-old mind-body problem. This problem has been debated by philosophers, scientists, and scholars for centuries, and it remains a topic of great interest and relevance to this day. At its core, the mind-body problem is a question about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the physical world. Specifically, it asks how the mind, which seems to be a non-physical entity, can interact with the body, which is made of physical matter. This question has puzzled some of the greatest minds in history, from René Descartes to Immanuel Kant to David Chalmers. One of the earliest and most influential figures in the mind-body debate was Descartes, who famously proposed the concept of dualism. According to Descartes, the mind and body are separate entities, with the mind existing independently of the body. This view became known as Cartesian dualism, and it has been both praised and criticized throughout history. In the 20th century, the mind-body problem received renewed attention from scholars and scientists. One of the most influential works of the time in this field was the book The Structure of Scientific Revolutions by Thomas Kuhn, which introduced the concept of paradigm shifts. Kuhn argued that scientific progress is not a linear process, but rather a series of paradigm shifts in which one way of thinking is replaced by another. Another major contribution to the mind-body problem came from philosopher Gilbert Ryle, who criticized Descartes' dualism and proposed the concept of category mistakes. Ryle argued that the mind is not a separate entity from the body, but rather a set of behaviors and dispositions that emerge from the body's interactions with the environment. In recent years, the mind-body problem has also received a lot of attention from neuroscientists who are using new technologies to explore the relationship between the brain and consciousness. One of the most prominent voices in this field is David Chalmers, who has proposed the concept of hard problem of consciousness. Chalmers argues that even if we can understand how the brain processes information, we still do not understand how this information gives rise to subjective experiences. Overall, the mind-body problem remains a complex and fascinating topic with no easy answers. It is a question that has been debated by philosophers, scientists, and scholars throughout history, and it continues to capture our imagination and curiosity to this day. And as people continue to explore the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the physical world, we will undoubtedly continue to grapple with this age-old problem. And with that, we've reached the end of this episode. Thanks again for joining us on Self and Psychology. And while you're here, why not check out the links in the description and one of our other videos. And if you really like our work, please consider subscribing and leaving a like and a comment below. It really does do wonders for our minds and bodies and greatly improves the way we experience our world. Thank you.